Before we get into today's stories, hit the like button below and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Entitled Mum sells my dog to a stranger in a different city, hides it from me for 5 years. Backstory, I had a small dog called Bongo. I know it's a weird name, but I was young and I really wanted a dog named Bongo, who went missing when I was 10, so my mum said. I was very sad when that happened and didn't want to talk to anyone for a week. My mum tried to cheer me up by taking me to the toy store and buying me a Hot Wheels car, but she mostly bought herself clothes and shoes, and I only got 3 Hot Wheels cars. And that only happened because that day it was a buy 2 get 3 deal for them. Now onto the main story. A couple of weeks ago, I was going to a car meet in Zagreb when I spotted a dog that looked exactly like my Bongo. Bongo has his left eye missing because of another dog who was attacking him, so that's why I knew it must be him. I told my dad I'd be back in a minute and walked up to the man who was walking him. The conversation is as follows. Everything has been translated from Croatian. "Excuse me, sir, may I see your dog for a second?" "Yeah, sure, he's very good with people, he's not gonna bite." "May I say he looks exactly like my dog?" "Oh, what's his or her name?" "His name was Bongo." His name is also Bongo." "Sir, where did you get this dog?" At this point, the dog started to whine out of happiness and started jumping around like crazy. "I bought him from a lady 5 years ago." My heart sank to the floor. "Can you please describe the lady who sold you the dog?" Short dyed blue hair, had a small blue purse, and she drove a white Kia." That is almost too good to be true. "You literally just described my mum. She said my dog went missing 5 years ago." I asked the man if he could come over to our house with Bongo to ask my mum a few questions. He said yes. I explained everything to my dad, and he also recognized the dog. When we got home, when Bongo stepped into my house, when my mum saw him and the man, everything started coming together. I wish you could have seen my mum's face, white as a ghost. We had a serious talk for several hours and Bongo ended up back with me. We helped the man get another dog and kept in touch. I stopped talking to my mum and I'm still not talking to her. And also, my mum is a serious liar, a horrible person who did many other bad things, which I won't talk about now, maybe some other time. Well, dang, this is very similar to a story I read out a couple of days ago, and to be honest, I was shocked with some of the comments. If you haven't seen that one yet, click the I button on screen right now. Pretty much, a person tried to steal someone's dog and they stabbed them in self-defense. Now, I said that I thought that reaction was a little bit extreme, but the vast majority of you disagreed with me. So I'll ask you again, on this story, what would your reaction be to your mother if you found out that she sold your dog 5 years ago? Let me know in the comments below. Now for our second story, how my entitled aunt and cousin ruined my 10th birthday. My aunt, dad's sister, has always been the textbook entitled lady. When I was a kid, she never missed an opportunity to make me feel like garbage. From thinly veiled insults to outright verbal and emotional abuse, she threw what she could at me in an attempt to break me. Of course, the disgust she felt for me and the fault she found in my dad's parenting never stopped her from mooching stuff off of him, or asking him for favors without ever giving anything in return. She and her husband considered their son to be a gift from the heavens, and he too grew up to be a narcissistic bully who loved to torment me, even though I was 7 years younger than him. My mum passed when I was 1 year old, and both my aunt and grandmother have been abusive to her as well, but that's another tale for another time. This is about the time she, along with her son, ruined my 10th birthday. This incident resulted in me being put off of birthdays and deciding to never celebrate them again. I just couldn't see them as a cause for celebration. My entire extended family, which included the said aunt, uncle, and cousin, along with some other relatives, were at our home, and my dad and stepmom had gone out to run some errands. My cousin had invited some of his friends over, even though my dad and stepmom didn't know them. My dad allowed them to come after my aunt whined incessantly about how her son would be bored if his friends were not there. I remember sitting in my room and playing with my dog. I knew my cousin would be down there and I usually did what I could to avoid him. At that time, I suffered from a pretty bad stutter, and when I was upset or angry, it only got worse. This is something my cousin loved to make fun of, and of course, my birthday would be no different. He demanded that I come downstairs to talk to his friends. When I refused, his mother told me to stop being rude and do as I was told. I was a powerless kid, so I really had no other choice. I went down to the living room and my cousin introduced me to his buddies in his usual condescending way as the birthday girl. He handed me a novel and told me to read out loud. I tried to read properly but failed. I was surrounded with judgmental stares and it made me nervous. worse. I stuttered, which is exactly what my cousin was hoping for. He and his friends began to snicker. I got angry and stopped reading. My cousin called me a freak. His friends looked at me as though I was on display at a zoo exhibit. I wanted to prove them wrong, that I wasn't a freak, that I could read. I tried reading again, but this time, on account of me being angry, the stutter was much worse. My cousin decided to mock my stutter, and all but one of his friends roared with laughter. The one that didn't actually notice my tears and told the other to knock it off. He asked if I was okay. My cousin told him not to bother, it's just a joke and that I was just an oversensitive baby. My rage was boiling over, and I threw the book at my cousin's face and stomped out. My aunt had seen what had happened and decided to pull me by my hair and drag me back to the living room. She told me to apologize to my cousin. I refused. She told me I needed to be taught a lesson for being a brat. I tried to tell her what had happened. She chuckled and said, "So what? He's your cousin and he's older than you. You need to respect him. Now apologize." I refused again, this time with a "No, I hate you, I hate all of you," all the while crying and shaking with anger. This didn't sit well with my aunt, and she slapped me before asking why I didn't just die in the womb. She told me I was a troublemaker, just like my mother had been. That she knew the day I was born that there was something wrong with me. That an evil lady like my mother couldn't possibly produce a normal kid. This was it. I balled up my fist and connected it to my aunt's face. I punched that lady so hard I busted her lip. By now, all the other relatives had heard the commotion and had gathered in the living room. The moment my fist connected with my aunt is when my dad and stepmom walked in through the front door. The aunt started fake crying. She berated my father for not raising me right and went on and on about how I was a violent, ill-mannered brat, etc, etc. The other relatives too expressed their disappointment in me. My dad asked me what the heck I thought I was doing. I tried to tell him what my cousin had done and what my aunt had said about my mother. Unfortunately, my stutter reared its ugly head again, and all that came out of my mouth was gibberish. My tears were flowing again. In the meantime, my cousin had decided to take all his friends and bail. I was punished for my beastly conduct. My birthday celebration was cancelled. My dad called my friends and asked them not to come over. I didn't cut any cake. The presents I was to receive from my parents were stocked away. I was banished to my room and stayed there for the rest of the day. I ate lunch and dinner alone. The next morning, no one spoke to me. I was given my breakfast platter, which I ate in my room. That afternoon, my cousin's friend, the one who had told them to stop bullying me, came over. He told my dad what my cousin had done and what my aunt had said. My dad sat me down and apologized to me, but he added that it was still wrong of me to punch my aunt. I just sat there silently. I was emotionally numb. My dad kept telling me he loved me and that he was sorry. I just coldly stared at him. My stepmom suggested a belated birthday celebration. I refused. I told them I didn't want a birthday party and that I wouldn't celebrate my birthday ever again. I kept my word. Every year since that day, my parents would ask me what I wanted for my birthday, and I always replied nothing at all. I would ask them not to get any cakes and not to invite any guests. The day I was born now meant nothing to me. Even now, after all these years, I don't celebrate my birthday. Instead, I celebrate the day I landed the job that enabled me to move away from my family and start a new life. I consider it the day of my rebirth. It was the day I was able to leave all the pain and anger behind and could plan for a life that I would live on my own terms. My aunt and uncle's trashy parenting ended up costing them dearly. If you want to know what became of them, do let me know in the comments. It's pretty satisfying. Thank you for reading. Oh my goodness me. Oh, well, that is just a tragic story. It's good to hear that you're all right now. Now, OP has actually posted the story of their aunt and uncle's downfall. If you guys want to hear it in a future episode, comment below. Moving on to our final story. EntitledParent gets angry at my friend for cosplaying at an anime convention. So not so recently, I went to MondoCon because it looked fun. 3 of my friends said that they'll come too. One of my friends is a big cosplayer. Now, cosplayers at MondoCon are pretty rare. There were some of them, but we arrived early and most cosplayers come later, so most people can see their costumes. So she came as Monica, but we didn't mind. A kid maybe between 10 or 11 came up to her and complimented her costume. So after the kid ran away, her entitled mum came up to us. This is how the conversation went. "Hey, why are you dressed like that?" "I'm cosplaying." She is quite shy, which is kind of funny because she cosplays. Well, I don't like it. Go change. Into what? I don't have normal clothes with me. She's almost crying at this point. I notice this and step in front of my cosplaying friend. Hey, what the heck are you doing? Tell your friend to change her clothes. But I've heard enough, so I cut her off. You get away from us before we call security. This is an anime convention, for God's sake. Why wouldn't someone dress up? The entitled mum is annoyed. You cannot speak to me like that. I can absolutely speak like that to you. You can't. You're gonna get the heck away from here with your crotch goblin, or we will call security and get you kicked out of here, maybe even banned. I cut her off again. Shut the heck up, you corn dog looking bee. The entitled mum is taken aback from this insult. More and more people are gathering around us. This goes on until security comes and asks what happens. The entitled mum starts shrieking. This little idiot assaulted me. How dumb do you have to be to scream that in front of a crowd who just watched the whole thing go down? The officers then asked for my side of the story and I explained it. The police looked at the cameras, blah blah, entitled mum and her crotch goblin are escorted out. We had a great time after that. Lots of people came up to us and suggested I post it somewhere, and I knew where to instantly. Well, thank you very much sbarner1 for posting this on r/RedditorYT. If you guys didn't know, if you have stories about entitled parents or anything else in particular and you want them read out on the channel, that is the place to post them. Link, as always, is in the description and in the pinned comment on today's video. Anyway, that is going to do it for today's video. I really hope you guys have enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to go and check out my subreddit, or if you want to, buy some merch. The link is on screen right now and it's super comfy and pretty cool. Other than that, I will see you guys all tomorrow with another Reddit video.